Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's live Game of Thrones discussion. This will be a Game of Thrones Season 7 spoiler-heavy discussion, so I'll probably say this several times. If you don't, we're going to get right into the plot leaks, the production leaks, all sorts of leaks. All the spoilers are coming out, so if you don't want to know anything about this or don't want to know the gritty details, then you might want to tune out of this video. And it says spoiler. I know some people join the chat like later on, join the video at later points, but it says spoiler right in the title, so you should be you should be warned for spoilers. Cool. So yeah, we'll get into it, and first I'll introduce the special guest joining. Always joining me as always, my brother Akton Tamko.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Looking forward to talking about Season 7. I haven't gotten to talk about it with Mark too much, and I wish it was July already. But until then, we will talk some spoilers.
Cool. And also joining us is someone who's actually knows a lot more about the spoilers and plot leaks than we do, so it'd be good to sort of get the reference. It's Max from Buxxtox.
Yeah, hey everybody. I know way too much. Like, I think I know literally every episode piece by piece and what's going to happen. And by the way, I'm Max from Buxxtox, so hi everybody.
Great, cool.
Mark, before we get started, just want to make sure everybody can see me, because on my screen I'm always in the little corner. I pop up on the big screen when I'm talking. So I just want to make sure that I'm being seen when I talk.
Oh, well, Cardinal Doomsday says awesome background you've got there, Atkins, so I'm assuming that means he can see you.
Okay, great. Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right.
Yeah.
Carry on.
That is a pretty cool background.
This is my tie-dye futon here.
All right. For some reason, my video playback is not working properly, but whatever. Anyway, let's get started. Let's just jump right into the topics. Let's start about the first big thing, and this again, as I said, this is a spoiler, so you should know about this if you're watching this video. But Jon Snow and Daenerys will be meeting this season. So first I want to talk about Daenerys and Jon, and their separate plot lines and their plot lines together. But let's start with the big one. They're meeting at Dragonstone, and what we think of this, and how good do you think it's going to be, and how do you think this is going to happen? Lay out, if you guys, Max, I guess we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm obviously really excited. We've been waiting 7 seasons for it. But my only worry is that since it's 7 episodes, I just hope we really get the character development. I'm sure it'll be fine, but she's finally in Westeros, so I really want to have the time and just see them communicate, I just want to see them kind of build that relationship. But I think they get there, Daenerys gets there in episode 1 in Dragonstone, and that's her headquarters. And then I think Jon and Davos should be arriving in episode 3. And then, so there's a lot of stuff I heard about that in the plot leak, but what do you hear about that? What do you think about that, Akton?
Yeah, and then it sounded like that Daenerys goes off to the big battle or whatever by Highgarden, which is episode 4. So it sounds like Jon gets there in episode 3. There might be some time where Jon is in Dragonstone still and Daenerys isn't. So my predictions, and then she comes back, but because it sounds like he doesn't leave to go up north until after she has come back. So they should have some time together. I don't know how much time they have to really develop a good, relationship. That's why when I read the thing about them having sex at the end, it was but they've hardly, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're going to get to that point, really. It just seems like it's going to be forced, because look, it's Jon and Daenerys, they gotta have sex, but it doesn't look like they're gonna. It seems like it's gonna be fake, because how are they gonna have enough time together to even get to that point? But we'll see. Maybe their interactions that they do have will be really intense and really I don't know. We'll kind of see what happens there.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm hoping is wrong about the plot leaks, the whole them having sex. I don't know, but I have faith in the show that if it does happen, that they'll pull it off in the way that's believable. But so is Jon Snow not getting the Dragonstone to episode 3? I thought I read it was episode 2 somewhere.
What I read is, episode 2 he gets a raven, and then him and Davos want to get dragon glass. That's like their main goal. So then they go over there and they arrive in episode 3. And then, no, it'll be really exciting to see because we're going to see Tyrion and Jon finally, meet again. And it's like set leaks. We've seen them handshake.
Yeah.
Which, the last time they saw each other was in season 1. And then, no, just the interaction, like when we first see them together will be interesting because for me, the plot leaks, they're becoming like more and more valid. Like, holy shit. Like pretty much everything's been confirmed. The only things that haven't been confirmed are the little like character moments because obviously you can't really leak that. So what they were saying is Davos is pretty much speaking up Jon, like saying that he was revived and like, he plays that role like he's always had. He's kind of like the salesman. And no, I think it'll just be an interesting dynamic because it said that Daenerys would love Jon immediately, but he would be very hesitant towards her. So do you think that would be possible? Yeah.
Because I thought Daenerys would be hesitant towards Jon and maybe Tyrion would have to sort of hype him up because Tyrion might think highly of him.
And Tyrion would hype him up too, yeah.
Yeah, and what I predicted and what makes sense to me because of what happened at the end of season 6 there with Dario, like that was I call it Chekhov's breakup. Like you don't have that breakup specifically so she can go marry somebody unless she's going to go and marry somebody for a political alliance. So I think from the beginning there's going to be a talk of this political alliance, and does make a lot of sense. For Daenerys to want to align with the North and with Jon. So I think a political marriage will be discussed probably pretty early on, maybe not immediately after they first start meeting, but I think pretty early on the political marriage will be discussed, but I don't know about actually them like really falling for each other. I don't know.
Yeah, in the chat, Colonel Doomsday says, fan service, I say, and referring to the whole Jon Snow Daenerys relationship. And that is actually a common concern, and that concerns me as well. I mean, that's why a lot of people thought, oh, the marriage with them is ridiculous. But I think the reasoning you just said, this whole Chekhov's breakup, I mean, but it would make more sense if it was for political reasons. If it is like a lovey-dovey romance, that does feel a bit fan servicey. But again, it depends on how well they pull it off, they develop it. I mean, obviously, like getting in towards the end of the series, that they have them like being this romantic love couple that conquers the White Walkers and rules all of Westeros, that would be silly. And I don't think that's the way they're going. That would be fan servicey. But there's other ways I think they could do a potential romance or marriage that would actually work and not be too fan servicey.
No, I agree. And I think that Jon, like, he's the character now, he's 100% just worried about the White Walkers. And that whole issue, he doesn't really care about, serving a king and like bending the knee because he spent so much time with the wildlings. He even said it in the show. And then that's another question. So if he either like marries Daenerys, would she want him to bend the knee and swear fealty? And would Jon do that? Because in the plot leaks, it said that Jon would refuse. Do you think that that's something that would happen?
Jon
refusing to bend the knee to Daenerys.
No, actually, I don't. Like, I read somewhere that Jon, well, maybe at first, but I read somewhere that he would agree to bend the knee to her if she agrees to fight the White Walkers. And that sounds more plausible to me because Jon, he doesn't really care about being king. He just wants to defeat the White Walkers. So he might be maybe a bit hesitant for this stranger from another land at first, but when he sees the dragons, which we saw the leaks of him petting a dragon, and the dragon glass, and knows that she has like some weapons that will be very helpful against the White Walkers, I could see him being, oh, who gives a fuck about being king? I just want to defeat the White Walkers.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that too. I mean, sometimes I get confused of what my predictions were and what I read somewhere. I think that I might have made that prediction first and then read it, but that just made a lot of sense to me that Jon would, he wouldn't care about being king in the North, he wouldn't, or even the North being its own independent country, as long as the White Walkers are defeated. And he's going to see these dragons be like, holy shit, this is like a powerful weapon against the White Walkers. And so, and plus we have access to all this dragon glass here. And I mean, this is very powerful allies against the White Walkers. And that's his number one concern. So I don't think, he gives a crap about being king in the North or anything like that. It's just the White Walkers that he's really most concerned with. So I definitely think he will just bend the knee and say, okay, let's go fight the White Walkers now.
I think in the plot leaks, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me on this, Max, but I think it says that he says this, but not until like episode 5 or 6 or somewhere later in the season.
Yeah, he what he says is he swore to drop his whole title as king in the North. Yeah. I think what happened, they got I think it was episode 6. They got attacked and Jon was almost killed, and he swore to Dany that he'd lay down his king of the North title if she helped him defeat the White Walkers. So we just drop it entirely. So, but that's like insinuating that she would hate him. Like she almost wouldn't want him as king in the North, because he's using that as leverage.
Well, no, she wants him to bend the knee to her. Like, yeah, I'm sure in this scenario he would stay as like, Lord Protect, or was it Lord Paramount
Warden,
of the North or whatever?
Warden of the North.
Yeah. So I just want to say, Marilyn Bentley in the chat says, I do not think Dany is going to respect him right away. He's the son of the man who's had her father killed and killed her brother. Actually, a lot of people were thinking that. And I've actually read, watched some videos where someone's saying Dany Jon romance would be absolutely outrageous because she should hate him. She should not like him because, because Ned Stark killed her father or brother or whatever and stuff like that.
I have a response to that. She may have that reaction initially, but Tyrion is going to counsel her and be like, "Hey, look, you can't let that shit get caught up. I mean, look what my brother and sister did to you, and I'm your hand to the king, and I'm your hand to the queen. So you can't get all caught up in what family members did. And I mean, if you do that, you'll never get anywhere. We need to make alliances." With the North here, there'd be a very powerful ally, and you got to let all that stuff go. So I think that may be her initial reaction, but Tyrion will wisely advise her and talk her out of that. Is what I would see.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's going to have to be a lot of sort of forgiving of the past, because all these people who have been at conflict before seem to be coming together, like Tyrion and Davos. I mean, they were opposite sides in the battle, and Tyrion arguably killed his son with wildfire. But then in the plot leaks, we say that Tyrion and Davos go on a mission together to King's Landing. So obviously, and I think they'll probably have words about that, but they'll say because, Davos was fighting for Stannis, who's now dead, and now he's fighting for Jon Snow, where Tyrion was fighting, for Joffrey, who's now dead. So they probably just have to leave shit in the past.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Cool. All right. So any last words on Jon and Dany before we move on to another Daenerys topic?
Well, I guess one of the Daenerys topics going to be the White Dragon, because it looks like Shane Moore says, let's address the White Dragon.
We will get to that. Don't you worry about that. But first,
I'm ready to move on to the next Daenerys topic.
But before we get to the White Dragon, I want to talk about the big ambush of the Lannister soldiers leaving Highgarden. That's sort of rumored. I think it's meant to be one of the big battle pieces of the season. It's supposed to happen in episode 4, and they talked about it took just as long to film as the Battle of Bastards, and it had as many extras. It's going to be huge. But I even heard recently that apparently there's supposed to be some rumor that Qyburn had fashioned some dragon killing machine or whatever that's supposed to take down dragons.
Geez. I never heard that part.
Yeah, and but apparently it's not going to be that effective because the dragons are supposed to totally kick ass in the battle.
Where did you hear that? Was that a plot leak or is that something different?
I heard that on somebody's video and they were quoting the plot leak, so it's suspect. Maybe they got it from the wrong information. It's not very concrete.
Yeah.
But that does seem like something he would do, though, if he hears that Daenerys is. But yeah, so what do we think of this huge battle, and is it going to be really impressive? There's also stuff about Randall Tarley, betraying the Tyrells and then taking over Highgarden and stuff like that. So what are our thoughts on that?
Well, to me, I'm excited to see it. I didn't expect this to happen at all, but now that it is, I'm excited to see how it like unfolds. But yeah, Cersei wants all their like resources, I guess, because they're the most wealthiest house. But I'm excited to see like the battle, because we've never seen kind of like it'll be interesting to see how they shoot it, like a Battle of the Bastards type with like dragons flying around, or like, and this is like the first fight we're going to see character groups that we love on both sides, like truly love on both sides. We have Jaime and like Bronn. They're characters that we've known for like a long time. And then like Daenerys and Tyrion. So it'll be interesting to see how they shoot it. Like, I think it would be awesome if they shot the fight from just Jaime's perspective and it was like on the ground floor and you see like the dragons flying around, and it's kind of like, it would just be a cool way to shoot it, I think, in a different way. Rather than following Daenerys in the sky, it would be seeing her from down low. I think it would just be a cool aspect of it.
Did you hear, Max, whether or not this is supposed to be an all episode affair, like a
No, they
Blackwater?
didn't say that. They didn't say that, but I'd be interested if because I know that they're using the same amount of resources. They have like just as many extras, and it took like just as long to film. So I'm interested to see how it would translate. Like, I feel like we're getting a guaranteed maybe like 15 minutes of action.
Well, it did. It said it was the same, or even bigger than the Battle of the Bastards. But remember, Battle of the Bastards was not a whole episode affair.
Yeah,
it was the build-up. Yeah,
so it could. There was the Dany stuff at the beginning. So it could be like that, where it's like a good portion of the episode, but not the entire episode. Something in my head is telling me I remember hearing that it's not going to be a whole episode affair, but that's not confirmed in any way. But my guess would be it would be like the Battle of the Bastards, where it's most of the episode, but not necessarily the whole episode is that battle. We might see another location at the beginning of it.
Yeah, that would make sense since there are only 7 episodes this season. But I would say at least it's probably going to take up a big, like at least half hour, at least half the episode.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how she uses the dragons, like with fighting with like the Unsullied. Like, she sends in the Unsullied into the Thraki, but then how does she use the dragons during the fight without torturing her own people? She could use it to scare or intimidate.
I actually had a specific prediction regarding her battle tactics. I don't know. It could be totally wrong, but I predicted that she would send in the Dothraki first to sort of, and I think I heard stuff about that too, that the Dothraki will be like the first wave. And so like the Lannister soldiers and everything will form ranks and get into archers. And then the dragons will just swoop in and like burn these, the lines of archers or whatever, and then just totally fuck everything up. And then she'll send in the Unsullied as sort of the cleanup crew to sort of prevent people from escaping and whatever. That's just a wild guess, though, because it kind of makes sense to me.
Right. And then there was one more thing that was said, that Jaime actually almost died and Bronn saved him. So I wonder if that would happen and if that's going to play out. Because apparently a dragon was coming at Jaime and somehow Bronn saved him. Like, it's hard to read on paper, but I don't know how that would translate.
I don't know if I heard a dragon, but I did hear that Jaime was about to die and Bronn saved him. I could totally see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what have you guys heard about then? Okay, so Daenerys is going to win this battle. It seems pretty clear, right? That's what.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems clear that the Lannisters can get their asses kicked.
yeah. They're gonna get their asses totally kicked. Now, I haven't got a clear picture of then does she get King's Landing or not? Because I thought I remember reading that she doesn't get King's Landing, but that seems kind of fuzzy. I mean, clearly they're gonna totally kick their asses in this battle at Highgarden. But then what's next? Have you read any? I made a prediction on it, but I didn't read anything concrete of what happens after this.
No, I haven't either.
Well, this is where the whole thing kind of messes up. Like she's strategically taking them out in Highgarden, and then like if she tried to take over King's Landing, but then the White Walkers came, so then she made that deal, which is kind of shady to me with the Dragon Pit scene, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, so there's that whole thing. So then they need Cersei as an alliance and her men. So then she won't attack King's Landing. So I just think it creates like an interesting dynamic because then Daenerys could be like, "Oh, thanks for the help," and then take over King's Landing after and screw Cersei over. So, like, I don't know, and the plot leak really didn't answer that. But it will be interesting to see the after effects of that battle in Highgarden, because Jaime will be like captured with Bronn, and Tyrion will be there with Daenerys.
Wait, did you read? Did you confirm? Have you read that he gets captured, or did you?
He gets sent back to King's Landing, but there's a moment where I think that they have an interaction.
Okay, because I predicted that he get captured, and I think Mark predicted that he went back to Castle Rock.
Because I read somewhere that he didn't get captured, that him and Bronn escaped.
Okay, you know what? You may be right. For me, it's both sides, but I know that Daenerys ends up burning Randall Tarley and his son, and then. Yeah, see, now I'm getting mixed up. My predictions.
I predicted he would get captured too, but I don't. I was like, oh, did you hear that confirmed?
Yeah.
Because that would be cool. Because I predicted.
I think one of my predictions is I thought they were going to use him as a chess piece and send him back.
Well, like Striker 163 says, aren't we going to see Castle Rock? And that has been confirmed by a production leak, so we have to see Castle Rock somehow. So that's why I made my prediction that Jaime and Bronn would escape and go to Castle Rock, which would seem to make sense. Because I think I read somewhere in the plot leaks that Grey Worm and the Unsullied would put Castle Rock under siege. And it seems like we need to have another character there other than just Grey Worm.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to happen.
Not necessarily. I mean, it could be like a marine thing where it's just like a super quick thing, and you just see Casterly Rock, and there's people wearing Lannister armor, and until they take over.
That's true. I mean, that would be really disappointing, though. But that's a possibility.
Well, they are having the huge battle at Highgarden, so they might just. Yeah, it seems like you would want to see some huge thing at Casterly Rock. But I'm still trying to figure out how they're going to cram all this stuff into 7 episodes.
No, there's going to be teleportations like crazy. It's going to be nuts. Because with the whole Jaime thing, like what really happens to him after this fight? Because what's also been confirmed is that we see Davos and Tyrion arriving on the shores of King's Landing, and that's how they get Gendry. But what the plot leak says is that they have a meeting with Bronn and Jaime. And that's obviously not confirmed because we can't see that. But that's supposed to take place the episode after the fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm getting a bit confused now. But Apkin, I wanted to ask you about the Randall Tarley, because I know in your videos you said that you weren't very pleased with this decision for him to turn against the Tyrells and be the Lannister stooge. I'm just wondering if you still feel that way, or do you think it makes more sense now that you've seen some of the plot leaks?
Yeah, I mean It does make sense from a story perspective, I guess, that he would want to, he would want to be the warden of, I guess, is that the South or what the warden of whatever that is.
Warden of the South, yeah.
That does make sense, but yeah, I just saw this because, and again, I'm not normally a book snob, but I just think so, that Tarly he's in the books a lot more, and he is, loyal to House Tyrell. They also fought for the Targaryens in, the Robert's Rebellion. So he's got a long history of fighting for Highgarden, for the Tyrells. So to me, when I first heard that, it seemed to me like, oh, this is an evil character, so let's align him with evil Cersei because they're both evil, and it just seemed like just beneath Game of Thrones, because they usually are more interesting in that. I just thought it would be really interesting to have this kind of really bad guy fighting for Daenerys. So it was just so I guess I'm over it now. I could see why he would want to be warden of the South or whatever. It makes sense, but I was just disappointing because I thought it would be really cool if you had a really bad guy fighting for Daenerys, and it would be consistent with like all the history in the books, and it would be more consistent. And it just felt to me like they were going, "Oh, let's put the bad guy with the bad guy." But
Yeah,
I am over it. It's like whatever. Okay, it makes sense that he would want that power for himself, so he would align himself with Cersei. So it's fine.
Yeah, I definitely can see your point of view and where you're coming from. But to me, I would draw a comparison to like Roose Bolton. Like, it is very similar to Roose Bolton portraying his, liege lord to the actual, to the Lannisters, to the king. So that's what it kind of reminds me of. And in that way, it's kind of like a repeated story beat that's a bit too predictable. But and I definitely like the way he was a total ass to Sam. It's like, oh, let's make him the villain then. But in some ways, I can see how it does work, how it does. And I think like before the plot leaks, I read this in the plot leaks. Actually, was predicting that this would happen, and that's mainly from watching the history and lore special bonus features on the season 6 Blu-ray, because the one that Randall Tarley narrated, he was very, very like hateful towards Tyrells. Those damn Tyrells, blah blah. So it's obvious to me that they were setting up for him.
Yeah, and I hadn't watched that. I was just basing it off. Again, I'm not normally a book snob, but like the book. Randall Tarley is in the books way more. So my image of him is from the book version of Randall Tarley, who was very much a member of House Tyrell, very loyal to the Targaryens. So that's kind of what was in my head. If I had watched that thing too, I would have gotten the same conclusion, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, he was. In the books, if I recall, he's also pretty loyal to the Lannisters. He was like doing their dirty work in Stokeworth or whatever. But I honestly don't know which way he'll go in the books. That would be something interesting.
Yeah, I guess you could swing like both ways. Like my initial thoughts was there's no male heirs for the Tyrell family. So I was like, oh, like he'd ally himself with the Lannisters because Cersei's currently like in charge. But looking at the other side, he could have been just as well off partnering with Daenerys, the mother of frickin' dragons, right? So
Yeah.
it's like I don't know. Like I guess it could work both ways. Like I'm finding with the plot leak, you just gotta like forget about some stuff and then kind of make it fit. And it works.
One other thing I want to say. Well, you go first, Mark, because I want to kind of go on a slightly different tangent.
Okay. All right. I was just gonna say, like, from a story perspective, it makes sense because it helps, like, the Lannister. I thought, how could a Lannister sack Highgarden? But it makes total sense that they have an inside man who sort of betrays his house and helps them sack Highgarden. Also, sort of makes sense because Cersei needs more allies because at the moment she's like totally outnumbered. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I was going to talk about is we know that he gets roasted by dragons, and that's the end of him, and this will be around episode 4 when that battle happens. So there better be time for them to get him down to Old Town, because you can't not have Sam meet his father again after he took the sword, and like he's just going to, have no consequences. Not even have to confront his father because his father just gets roasted by dragons. So, I mean, that seems like, within the first 3 episodes, then the Randall Tarley needs to go down to Old Town first, and Sam needs to be able to face up to that. Just to have Randall Tarley burned by dragons with Sam never having to face him seems like it would be a total cop-out.
It does seem to me that's what's the most likely outcome is that Sam's never going to have to confront Randall. Yeah. He just gets to run off with the sword, and I'd actually be fine with that. I wouldn't mind it too much. I mean, it is kind of a cop out. You're setting up this big conflict, but I don't see there's any way Sam actually.
I think that's terrible. That's terrible for his character, because since he started on the show, he had this. This thing with his father. I mean, since this was way back in season 1, like his father was something that he had to overcome, and like so now he never has to face it. I'm sorry, that sucks.
I just want to read in the chat. Jerome says maybe Randall has ADD and forgot about Sam and the sword on the way to Old Town. Yeah, well, that's a good point. It doesn't seem like that's something he would just let go, but I don't really see how that could turn out well for Sam. I don't know.
I think he's just going to get called to action before he can address
Well,
Sam.
Yeah, well, I which I think would suck. Well, when my prediction was that Jorah would come to his rescue. That's how. I mean, but Sam would still have to, stand up to his father and like get over for the growth of his character. He has got to overcome that. And I guess they would just say, well, he took the sword when his father wasn't looking, so that was him overcoming it. But not really, because he didn't confront his father. He snuck behind him and took the sword. So I think for Sam's character, it would be better if he had some kind of confrontation with his father. And there's many ways he could get out of that. Jorah coming to rescue. I mean, they can come up with anything, a way that he would get out of that. So to me, it has to happen.
I'm personally okay with it, but that's just me. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind either way, to be honest. But let's talk about Dickon. So I said in my video I predicted like Dickon would survive this battle, but then you pointed out, I think, in my comments that it was part of the plot leaks that he's roasted alive by dragons as well. Yeah. And I hadn't read that part. So is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case. I think she burns a bunch of lords, but it's only really clarified that it's Randall Tarley and Dickon Tarley, and then I'm sure there's like other lords involved as well. All the people who betrayed her, pretty much.
And they're also the recast. Oh, go ahead, Akton.
I was going to say I'm wondering, is it going to be during the course of battle, or is it going to be these captured lords that she's going to line up and like have a dragon firing squad and like?
See, that's what I assumed.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, that would be immediately after the battle, like on the battlefield.
Yeah, and then maybe like some conflict with like I don't know how like she's always done that. I don't know how Tyrion would respond with that, if he would be okay with that, or if he would talk to her about a different strategy. Well, and their whole dynamic of him like kind of leading her along.
I read in the plot leaks that Tyrion was not going to be okay with this, that he's going to be pissed off about it, and he's going to urge her not to do it, and she's going to do it anyway. So that brings up some interesting discussion on what sort of repercussions there might be for this. Maybe, Westeros is going to hate Daenerys for this, and Cersei's going to use this as really good ammo against her propaganda war against her and be like, oh, she's this brutal savage from a foreign land coming over to conquer Westeros.
Yeah, and I hear too that Tyrion is like telling Daenerys. It says in this episode too, where the fight happens, that he keeps telling her not to use dragons when they try and take over King's Landing, just to like protect the people. And that's like something that the plot leak says that he would say. So I'm not sure. Yeah,
I think that makes sense. Yeah, but I just wanted to talk briefly about the Dickon, his recasting, because I don't know if either of you watch Black Sails, but he's recast by this actor from Black Sails who's actually like in his late 20s. He's really tall and muscular, and the Dickon we saw in season 6 was like this scrawny little teenager. So I think this, in my opinion, this is the worst case of like recasting a character who's completely and totally different. I mean, I guess you could argue with Marcel
like Dario over again.
Yeah, worse than Dario, I'd say. Like, I mean, you could argue like Marcella and Tommen, but a couple of years had passed, so it sort of makes sense that those characters would grow a bit older. But how can, in a single year, he goes from a teenager to like a 30-year-old who's buff?
I don't know. Maybe they'll find some way to make him look a little younger and less buff. I don't know.
Less attractive. Yeah. No, for me, it was like, I just wish, and they're running a show, like they go year to year, but I wish, they just had some foresight. Like there's just certain things, like when you watch the end of season 4 and you see the Three-Eyed Raven, and then like in season 6 you see Max von Sydow, and they're just like, it's just like, it takes me out a bit, but it comes with the show, I guess.
Well, to me, the worst one is the season 2 Mountain. Like I think that guy was terrible. He wasn't
like 3 mountains too.
Three mountains. Yeah,
I think he was the worst like actor they recast, but he wasn't too far off from the other ones. Like he wasn't like a drastic change.
He wasn't a drastic change. He was just a bad actor, and he was too tall. He was too tall and skinny to be the Mountain. The Mountain, like to me, the current Mountain is like the best Mountain. Like I like the first one too, actually, but I think the current one they have, like I think of the Mountain when I read it as a professional wrestler type dude, like a big, strong dude, and the season 2 one was just tall and skinny, and he was a terrible actor. So
So in the chat, Colonel Doomsday says Dickens been in Littlefinger's magic teleporter. Well, there you go. There's your explanation.
Wait, well, I don't understand. He time travels, or like how does that make him become bigger and stronger and older?
Yeah, maybe it's a time traveling. It's a time.
Hence the word
teleporter. Yeah.
More than just a teleporter.
All right, cool. So, all right, let's get to the dragon white in the room. let's talk about it. Let's get into this big finale. It's supposed to happen in episode 6, I believe. There's supposed to be a big battle with the White Walkers.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be the same episode where Daenerys comes in with the dragons, and then one of them gets killed and turned into a white dragon.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Daenerys just swoops in last minute and then ends up, I don't know how, but the plot leak says she ends up saving everybody, but she leaves Jon behind because screw him. And then apparently he's like half dead, and then Benjen Stark comes out of nowhere and sends him away on his horse. And then Benjen ends up getting swallowed.
This is the one thing I wanted to correct you on, Max, when you said earlier all the major points have been confirmed. This Daenerys' part has yet to be confirmed as far as I know, like in the whole white dragon thing.
No, you're right. That's something that will never. Yeah, it won't be confirmed because that's shot off like campus, right? Like I'm just going off. Yeah, what I just said was the plot leaks. And you can take it as it was, but they're becoming more and more valid. So I think it's an important thing to like address. But yeah, you're totally right. It's not confirmed. Like all that is confirmed is the 8 people or whoever who's involved. Hang on one sec.
Yeah, Tormund, the Hound.
Tormund, the Hound, Beric Dondarrion, Thor, Davos actually stays behind. But then there's Jon, Gendry, and
Jorah. Yeah, and those actors had all been seen filming in this island on Iceland, and it was very clearly this scene. Those actors, but not Emilia Clarke. So that could be a little bit of hope that maybe that's not.
No, that's true.
That's not. I mean, just because we didn't see her there, it means nothing about whether or not she shows up. Because it sounds like in the plot leak she just swoops in at the last second, so they wouldn't need her a whole lot there, and they maybe even could shoot that separately. So who knows? But the fact that we don't have her presence confirmed, I heard nothing about like a green screen that could be used for dragons or anything like that. So. I'm still holding off faint hope that white dragon thing is bullshit, but just because we haven't had that confirmed doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
I would actually think that's cool if the leaker sort of just made this up and threw this in to throw people off.
Yeah.
To sort of, we'll tell you all this stuff that's happening, but I will make up this bullshit to throw people off so they're actually surprised when they see what actually happens.
Yeah. So what we do know is this team of this group that Jon has goes north, and it's actually confirmed that they're getting a white. Like that's actually legit.
Yeah, that is confirmed. That is
confirmed. And that is all we know about that scene. And we won't really know anything else because I think the action scene is going to rely a lot on CG. And if Daenerys was involved, it would be, I think, in like a soundstage or something. But about the battle, I think, the polar bear, it sounds crazy. But me personally, I'm fine with it. Because, it was about the ice spiders and like, why not a polar bear? Like, I feel like this battle that's going to happen here is really going to introduce more fantastical elements. And I think a polar bear makes sense. Like, to me, White Walkers can really reanimate anything.
Wait. Max, hold on 1 second. Let's go back here a bit. Did you say ice spiders? Have the ice spiders been confirmed?
No, they haven't.
No, damn it.
That's not true. No.
Everyone's always talking about how they want an ice dragon. I want ice spiders.
To me, as soon as I saw polar bears in the plot leak, I was like, that's bullshit. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, I think it makes sense. I think they're actually going to swap out polar bears for ice spiders. I think they're going to substitute.
I would like the ice spiders better.
Because I feel like, I don't know if you guys, like, tell me if you agree or disagree. I feel like with the show, and I personally haven't read the book, so I'm not sure, but I feel like there's a sense of, they're trying to ground it in a certain way. Like Benjen, for example, rides a horse instead of a deer, but obviously that's expensive too, to do a deer. But I feel an elk, sorry. But I don't know. A polar bear, I feel like it's just, they're grounding it more.
But the thing is the ice spiders have been mentioned in the show itself before.
Yeah,
Old Nan's mentioned it, and then they mentioned like at Hard Home, one of the wildlings, I think, made a reference to ice spiders. So, come on, they foreshadow it. You gotta see them in the show, but that's just me. I'd rather see ice spiders than ice dragon, personally.
And then you guys both hate the ice dragon, right?
Yes,
Obviously. Okay.
the dragon white thing.
Well,
Yeah,
but Dragon White is not an ice dragon, though, because when people say, oh, there's going to be an ice dragon, no, they haven't said anything about an ice dragon. This is a regular dragon that gets turned into a white. An ice dragon is like its own creature. That it is an ice dragon, always been an ice dragon, not a dragon that gets turned into white. So
yeah, you're right.
There's no ice dragons in this show. I just want to.
That's definitely not going to happen. Yeah,
make that clear. But a white dragon is what they say is going to happen.
That's what I mean. I feel like the white dragon's going to fill the, like, everyone keeps talking about an ice dragon. I just kind of put the 2 and 2 together. But yeah, for me, I always thought a dragon would become a white. I thought it would be Drogon, actually, in the finale of the show, like in season 8, because I feel like that's the Night King's ability, is that he can resurrect like dead things, whether it's dogs, whether it's humans, whether it's polar bears, like whatever. Why not a dragon? And I feel like it would, I think it would be something, it would be a really interesting, I have no problems with it. And
oh, really? I thought you hated it too.
I did, but the fact that it's Viserion, because the fact that he has a dragon leading up to the 8th season kind of throws me off. I personally validate it as, like, people keep talking about 3 heads of the dragon. You know, you have Daenerys, Jon, and then everyone says Tyrion. And I think it's a good way to just axe out his dragon and change up the story and have 2 dragons, and they have to fight the other, right? So I'm not sure. I think it's an interesting twist, but I feel like the only we'll tell if it's good if we see how it appears on the screen. Really,
I don't know. Like I did have someone challenge me on the last video I did, saying, "Well, what was he be so bad about it?" They thought it sounded good, but to me, it just sounds way too fan servicey, because so many people have been calling for an ice dragon or seeing the Night King ride a white dragon. It's just. I really, 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 really hope that they don't do it.
Yeah,
it's just I would think it would be more interesting to go in a different direction, not be so fan servicey.
Yeah, I agree. It's just way too fan servicey for me.
Yeah, and then to me, it's like it's a good way to even out the fight too. Because, like, if say if you couldn't reanimate a dragon, how would the Night King be able to fight Daenerys effectively? Because she could just, well,
the thing is that the whites have been seen to be they're harmed by fire. Fire is an effective weapon against the whites, but not necessarily the White Walkers. We saw the White Walkers.
Not the White Walkers at all. They walk right through the stuff.
They walk right through. So it's not that inseparable of a weapon. I think at the moment the scales are so tilted for the White Walkers that we need to have the dragons to balance it. I don't think the dragons overbalances White Walkers. I think at the moment they're just so unstoppable, and then to give them a dragon white on top of that is just and the thing that I hate the most, though, is the thing, Apkin, you were saying you weren't sure if you didn't see the plot leaks, is the thing about the dragon white bringing down the wall. To me, that is the most outrageous. I really, really hope that doesn't happen. That sounds like the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, we were talking about this, I think, before we came on the air. But I didn't read that anywhere. The only place that I've heard that is from Mark, but he said it was in the plot leak. I might have missed it, but I didn't specifically see that he brings. I know that the wall comes down and he rides the white dragon, but I didn't think that the dragon actually brought down the wall. But you say you read that he does.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong because there could be different things that are not true or whatever, but I did read it in several places. But
yeah, I read that too. For me, it's just execution. I think you guys want the wall to come down, right? That was your part of your predictions?
I'm the only one who doesn't.
Well, it's not that I want the wall to come down.
It's just the next step.
I think it's going to. I think it's kind of inevitable. And I used to be like Mark. I didn't think it would, but over time, I've kind of really. I actually just talked about this in the video I just did, but I really grown on the idea that I think that the wall has to come down.
Well, okay, Mitch Corbin in the chat says magic broke the arm of Dorn. It could bring down the wall. Well, the arm of Dorn, like the fact that magic broke it, that's a legend. We don't know if that actually really happened, or is that's just like a legend that was born out of bullshit.
Yeah, but it was said to be done by the Children of the Forest, which we know are real. So why wouldn't it have happened?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anything that happens like tens of thousands of years ago, it could just be in legend. And the way they always say it's like a maester saying, "Oh, this is what we heard," so they don't know for sure. But I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't know.
And there's another side of that to me that I know you don't like, Mark. And like, correct me if I'm wrong. You know how with Bran, how he's marked now and how he goes through the wall.
Oh yes, I hate.
And they come down. You don't like that, right? To me, I think that's a great story opportunity. Like they've said that he's marked now, and it destroys the magical barrier and allows the whites to come in. So him going through could affect the wall in some way, and maybe at the end it will allow the Night King to break it down or pass through. But I think I feel like they should address that because I think it is open.
Well, I'm hoping that mark thing only applied to the Three-Eyed Ravens cave. Like it was just like temporary, and then it doesn't matter. But here I'll tell you exactly why I don't like that. It's for the same reason I don't like the white dragon bringing down the wall. Although the brand mark thing I think is worse, but it's the same reasons. Because if the White Walkers bring down the wall or get through the wall because of something that our heroes do, then that would just piss me off, because then it would seem like, well, they're better off not trying to fight the Walkers. If by trying to fight them, they actually give them to the advantage, which is what already happened with Bran in the Dread Raven's cave, which is fine for that. But if they keep doing it, if they get that huge advantage where they actually come into Westeros because our heroes are actually trying to fight them, and that just makes me think, oh, well, they're better off just staying at home and not fighting them. And so that would really, really, really irritate me. So I super hope they do not go in that direction, and the White Walkers find some way of their own accord to bring the wall down or get through the wall, as I predict.
Yeah, and that doesn't bother me nearly as much. I don't have a big issue with that at all. I think to me that would make a lot of sense. Hopefully, Brando would consider that. That he wouldn't just doop-a-doop-a-doo, I'm going across, but he would or maybe, and this is my theory. I don't know if what's his face Max Van Sydow has been. I don't know if he's been seen in this, but I had this theory that Bran might see the Obi-Wan Three-Eyed Raven at one point, or that he would go back into the past where he's still alive. The Three-Eyed Raven is still alive, but the Three-Eyed Raven has his extra sight, so he's able to talk to Bran, and so he might warn him about that or something like that. So hopefully Bran, one way or another, whether it's from a warning from the Three-Eyed Raven or whatever, or if he thinks of it on his own, hopefully he would at least consider that before he goes across the wall, that, hey, I've been marked, instead of just him being a complete idiot about it and just going across the wall.
Well, that's how I would like to handle it. With Bran, he oh my god, I just totally lost my train of thought. So Bran's mark, I don't even know. I got to get back to me. I totally slipped my mind. Sorry, guys.
Well, I'm actually, since we're sort of hitting about close to getting an hour here, I'm about ready to move on to the next topic. If you guys are.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm good.
I had something really important to say too. God damn
it. You can say it if you remember. But let's totally move on from Daenerys and Jon. Let's get into a totally different topic. Let's talk about Arya and Winterfell. And the first thing I want to talk about is the beginning of Arya Stark's storyline, because there's some things I've read in a few places in the plot leaks, but I haven't seen many other people sort of confirm it. But stuff about her wearing Walder Frey's face and killing all the Freys, and then finding Nymeria and going north. So I'm a bit sort of hazy on why she will go north. I think that she will start to go towards King's Landing to finish her list, because other people are like, oh, she said in season 6 she was going home. Yeah, but then she didn't go home. She went to kill Walder Frey. So she already proved that her list is more important to her. So it seems to me that she would want to finish her list, but somehow get diverted. And I know both me and you, Apkin, had predicted that she would run into the Hound and the Brotherhood without banners, and they would divert her north. But I was actually, and then there's also Nymeria. Maybe she diverts, meeting the Wolfpack diverts her north. But I was also thinking the possibility of what if she meets Brienne, and Brienne's going up north, and she tells her, "Oh, your sister and half brother are, taking over the north," and she goes back to the north with Brienne. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Well, I had a very specific prediction about how this happens. That she does start going south to get finish off her list. She runs into the Hound and the Brotherhood, and they try to talk her into going north, and she says, "Nope, I'm going south." And that's when she sees Nymeria, and she hears the call of the wolf, and it's like the wolf dreams in the book, and then that's what causes her to reconsider it. And I do want to address something. Shane Morris says Akton predicted that the Arya scene, he's referring to Arya wearing Walder Frey's face, will be the first scene of the season, but I actually think it'll be the end of the first episode. Nope, it can't be, because I feel like she's got to do all that stuff. I feel like Nymeria is going to be the end of the first episode. So I feel like Arya is going to have a whole arc in the first episode. And so I think and my prediction was that her wearing Walder Frey's face would be the first scene of the season. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but I do think it will be at the beginning of the first episode somewhere. And I feel like Arya will have an entire arc in the first episode, ending with her heading up to Winterfell at the end of the episode. So I don't think we can wait for her to kill Walder Frey until the end of the first episode. I think that'll happen toward the beginning, and she'll start heading north at the end of the first episode.
Well, yeah, the thing, we're getting back to her killing all the Freys, because that's something, like I mentioned in my prediction video, which at the time I hadn't heard many other people talking about, but then later it was confirmed that the actors, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays Walder Frey is going to be in season 7. So a lot of people were like, "Oh my, how can he be in season 7? He's dead. What's going on? Is he not dead?" And I'm just like, come on, guys. She's wearing his face. How obvious is that? So to me, that kind of confirmed that she's going to wear his face to kill the Freys. So, but I had a lot of disagreement. A lot of people saying, "Oh, she can't kill all the Freys and take over the twins." So, what do you guys feel about that? Do you think that's definitely going to happen? That like Edmure is going to get the twins?
I think so. I think that. And the show hasn't established as much as the books how many Freys there are. So, they could just say there's a whole bunch of Freys in that room, in the big red wedding room, and she poisons them all, I think was your prediction. Or
yeah, I read that in the plot leaks too, that she poisoned them all.
Oh, that she poisoned them. Oh, I didn't know that was in the plot leaks.
But yeah, that's just something I read in one place. Yeah.
However she does it, she kills them all. Because the show hasn't really talked about how there's millions of Freys all over the place like the books do. So I think that they could just call it good and say Freys are all gone now. Edmure Tully's in charge, and that's it. I think that is where we're headed, and I can't see any possible other explanation for. I think it's David something. David Bradley, I think his name is the guy who plays Walder Frey. I can't think of any other explanation for why he would be there. That makes the most sense to me that Arya will wear his face and kill.
Yeah, he was seen on set or cast, right?
Yeah, he's confirmed. He's confirmed as being cast in season.
No, that's
7.
great. Yeah, no, I think we will. Yeah, in episode 1, I think we'll definitely see her get even more revenge on the Freys. But then, see, that's even from the beginning in season 6. I always thought that she would end up in Winterfell. I don't think her motive will immediately be going south. I think she'll just kind of hear the news. Daenerys is around. She'll hear that Jon's king of the north. We know, well, we don't know, but she may run into Nymeria, which there's even more news coming out about that, about Arya filming, or Macy Williams
there's
actor
a
filming
lot
a
of
location
stuff
with the
about
direwolf.
her filming in Canada, which is where they do the direwolves, and they're also filming the direwolves in Canada. So it's pretty much been confirmed.
Yeah,
except that they said the actors aren't ever filming with the actual wolves, so her presence in Canada doesn't necessarily mean anything. But they did confirm that there was a new direwolf that they were using. There was films with the wolf that plays Ghost,
Yeah.
and then there was a new one. So
But how many direwolves are there too, right? So that
yeah,
fits.
so that would
Not
yeah,
many
Nightmare
things
is the only
stand
one.
in Dave.
Yeah, Nightmare is the only one there is besides Ghost. So that to me does kind of pretty much confirm it. But
So yeah, and since it's confirmed, it makes me think that like she's gonna have an interaction with Nymeria, and I'm sure she's gonna run away, and it's just gonna be like a one-off moment, and then I'm sure you're gonna see her come back, either this season or next season, and I think that's gonna be another like pivotal moment in like the next season. With her meeting other people, it's the debate whether she meets up with the Brotherhood, with Melisandre, or she meets up with Brienne. I think Brienne's pretty much gonna arrive in Winterfell the first episode.
I wouldn't be surprised, actually. Yeah,
I think Arya will end up meeting up with the Red Woman, Melisandre, because even in we know season 3, she said that we will see each other again, and I think they'll see each other when Melisandre's coming south and Arya's going north. They'll have some kind of interaction. I know that she was on her list, and then it magically got removed.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's going to happen. And Melisandre said blue eyes, green eyes, like all these different colored eyes, and it's like that. Now she's seeing Arya again as kind of like a trained, faceless woman in a way. And then I feel like she'll may see the Hound in the end of the season, or maybe next season. I'm not sure.
Well, I wasn't. The Hound's he's confirmed for going up north, so he's going to be around there. So I think they're definitely gonna run into each other. I mean,
it's a matter of when.
Yeah,
we need to get an Arya Hound reunion.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be season 7 because the Hound is going north and Arya is going north. So, but we don't know for sure. It'll be in the Riverlands that they'll run into each other. But that was my prediction that I think they will. Now, as far as Melisandre, I feel like I might be the only one who talked about this in my prediction video. I placed her in Dragonstone because there are photos of a red woman in Dragonstone that nobody ever talks about, but it's like from the distance. So you could say, oh, it's another red priestess or whatever, but it looks like Melisandre to me. So
what I've heard about that is that it's not the Kinvara.
Kinvara.
They said it's not her, and they said it's not. Yeah, so it seems like it's Melisandre. And it would make sense, right? Flock to the, the next, chosen one or whatever.
Yeah.
And she is connected with Jon.
Is there time for? I mean, I suppose with Littlefinger's magic transporter, there's time for her to meet Arya and get the Dragonstone. So it's possible. It is not what I personally predicted, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think that Melisandre and Arya are never going to meet up, and that was just an abandoned plot point where she said we'll meet again.
That's where I would lean to. I definitely would lean in that direction.
Yeah, we'll see. But I know that I don't know. The plot leaks say that she arrives in Winterfell in episode 4, so it'll be interesting to see. Okay. Yeah, in episode 4.
I didn't realize it was that late. I thought it was.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
I thought it was
what it says. What it says is Bran arrives in 3 and Arya arrives in 4.
Oh, so Bran gets there first. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, that was what I was going to say about Bran. I wanted them to handle him intelligently, and I wanted him to think, like I'm marked. If I go through the wall, it would come down. So it's the decision to make where I'm really important. The fight can only be won with me, so I have to save me. So he'd have to sacrifice the wall in order to get home. But more onto Arya now. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the dynamic between her and like Bran and Sansa, and I don't know who else is going to be there. Will the Brotherhood go there? Because we know that they're also going far north. Will Tormund stay in Winterfell? It'll be interesting to see how many characters are actually there.
It seems like there could potentially be a lot there, and that was the next topic I wanted to cover is the Stark reunion in Winterfell and how we think that's going to go. I heard stuff that I don't know. I heard that the Arya and Sansa would sort of get into a little feud, which makes a lot of sense because they've had that feud since they were little girls. But like at first they'd be happy to see one another, but then I think it's because Arya is always closest to Jon. It's kind of disappointing that I haven't heard yet anything about a Jon Arya reunion, but it does seem to me that she would be. It seems like Sansa would sort of be plotting against Jon, and Arya would not be like that.
Yeah, and I think that could still happen even without Jon there. I think that's kind of still gonna happen. But yeah, I always got the impression Arya would be arriving after Jon left, and if what Max says is correct, that she gets there episode 4, Jon leaves episode 2, so that is the case. And then Bran, that was the impression that I gotten that both of them would arrive after John left. So, and that's unfortunate because Arya has that real connection with John above anyone else. But as far as Sansa, I'll go.
No, you go ahead.
As far as Sansa and Arya go, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it actually has been. There was a production leak that said that they are. There was. It wasn't the big plot leak, but it was kind of. It was on Watchers on the Wall. It was details of the plot that said they are specifically going to have.
It's confirmed that they are. Yeah.
Yeah, that they are. And I got in. I actually got into a big argument with one of the commenters on one of my videos, on my Starks video, who like doesn't believe that Watchers on the Wall knows what they're talking about and say, "Oh no, Arya and Sansa have matured now. They're going to totally get along." And I'm like, "What freaking show have you been watching? Of course they're not going to get along."
They grew up in two different lives. There's no way.
And they were two different, completely people in the beginning. I mean, they were totally different people, and now they've had totally different experiences, and they are all still totally different people. They're going to clash. I didn't need any production leaks to tell me that. To me, that was obvious. That was a foregone conclusion. There's no way that wouldn't happen that way. If you think otherwise, you haven't been paying attention. I mean, it's very, very clear. But it has been confirmed for sure that they are going to clash.
Yeah.
And I wonder how Bran is going to fit into that dynamic. If he's going to try to be like the buffer to try to bring them together.
I think he is, but he also is going to be very obsessed with. Well, this was my prediction anyway. He was going to be very obsessed with going to the weirwood trees and like trying to find out more about R plus L equals J and the White Walker and all this. He's going to be really kind of focused on that, so he may not be able. I think he's just going to be kind of like, "Come on, guys, let's all get along." But he's not really going to have time to really like focus on them because he's going to be so intent on learning as much as he can about all the things that he gets out of the weirwood tree with the R plus L equals J and all the White Walker stuff.
Yeah, I think he's just going to be working. Like now that he's home, he's just going to be constantly going to the weirwood tree, learning as much as he can because he has to. Before the long night. About Sansa and Arya, I think they'll definitely feud. I just wonder how the show is going to pull it off. Obviously they're totally different people and they can fight naturally. Sansa, I'm sure, is going to be taking the leadership role, and Arya is not really going to have any power, and that might frustrate her because she'll be angry on how Sansa's kind of ruling. But Littlefinger, the plot leak says that Littlefinger is going to have a hand to play in trying to pit one another against each other.
All right, well, I'm just about to get into Littlefinger, but I wanted to talk about something else real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was thinking with Bran is that perhaps maybe what he learns from his time traveling or green seeing or whatever you want to call it is actually he's gonna use that to sort of help Arya and almost be on Arya's side. That because they'll be rooting for like Jon or whatever, and he'll find in his green seeing that Jon is the one that we need to back, and so maybe he'll give her, like, I know, Apkin, you had a prediction that he would give her some information about how Littlefinger started the whole thing, and that's how and so I sort of think that maybe that will be the case, that Bran will actually end up going to Arya's side of it.
Yeah, and that was definitely like out of the blue kind of but kind of prediction that I thought sounded cool. So I mean, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see. I don't know if Bran really will want to take sides per se, but I think that he will, because I think he will want them to like, hey, let's all be together. We're all Starks.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think, I mean, Arya will probably reach out to him more. I think Arya will, and therefore Arya will probably get more of that green sight where Sansa may be a little more dismissive of that.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. The only way I really see it is like maybe Sansa gets a bit too comfortable and maybe does some things that Arya believes Jon wouldn't do. So she gets angry with Sansa because of how she's ruling and it's not in Jon's best interest. But like, I don't know, like it's really just stretching. Like, I don't know if Bran would choose a side, like he could. I have no idea in that aspect.
All right, cool. So yeah, let's get into Littlefinger because the plot leaks talk about. I think didn't the plot leaks say that Arya and Sansa actually team up to kill Littlefinger? That Sansa,
it says that.
Go
It
ahead.
says that Sansa orders Littlefinger's execution, and Arya carries out the sentence.
That's a whole family thing.
I don't know. Like, and I went a different direction in my prediction. I predicted that Sansa would be against her killing Littlefinger, and that Arya would do it against her wishes, and that's what would drive a wedge between them and separate them.
See, that makes sense to me too.
Yeah, and I predicted that Arya would just do it, and Sansa would be like, "What the fuck? I had this all under control." Like Sansa won't know about it until after it's happened. Is what I think.
Yeah.
And then she would be pissed because, because she had it all under control. Arya was kind of stepping on her toes. So that's how I would more see it happening. This whole thing with Sansa ordering Littlefinger's execution and Arya being the executioner. I mean, they could pull that off. I mean, there's a lot of things that we see in the plot leaks or in other plot leaks that sound weird, and then they pull it off well. So it would be. Yeah. I mean, they could really pull that off on screen, but just hearing about it, that seems weird to me. Like I don't. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. See, I'm in the same boat. With if you just pit them against each other, like the plot leak says that Littlefinger takes the message that Sansa wrote in King's Landing to Robb, leaving Arya out. Remember in season 1 when it said like I'm here in King's Landing and she left out Arya? Right. They said that they were going to use that as a plot tool, and Littlefinger would try and put them against each other using that. But I think that's really weak. So
that makes sense. That actually makes sense.
It does make sense, but just looking at it like, like Sansa when you were like a little girl, when you're like 13, you left me out of a letter. Like, how dare you? Like, I feel like it's something that they should move on from, and like, I just feel like that's a weak point to start all this conflict. So I just hope they have something strong enough to really take Littlefinger down.
Well, I think it would more be because it seemed like at the end of the season 6 that Sansa was kind of. She said she was distrustful of Littlefinger. She like told him off, but it seemed like they still kind of had a thing going, and I think that's what's going to drive a wedge between them. Because I think Arya is going to despise Littlefinger because she remembers seeing him up there when her father was executed, and and maybe Bran won't tell her Littlefinger started the whole thing, but maybe he could at least tell her that Littlefinger was the one directly responsible for betraying her father and getting him arrested, which would lead to his death.
Yeah, and something like that could be it too. But that's what I more see, something like that. And Arya, like the way I predicted it was Arya. You see her going to bed at night, and she does her list, and now Littlefinger is on the list. Like that's what I see. And then she goes after him. Like that just makes more sense to me than like this execution thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I just hope they send him off well, because like he's such a great, like iconic character. Like he's so important. So it'd just be a shame if they're just like, "Hey, you made me mad at my sister. Kill him." Like I hope they execute it well. Yeah. But it does make sense for him to be killed off, though, because I'm sure the next season, it's 6 episodes. I think it's just going to be a huge battle and like survival. Like it's not really going to be political at all. So we don't need Littlefinger.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of book readers are upset at the prospect of Littlefinger, getting killed in such a way in the season. They want him to be more important to the end game. But yeah, I'm kind of fine with it. I've never been that huge of a Littlefinger guy. I think this would be a good way for him to go out.
And Max just made a good point. Like it's Littlefinger, his specialty is the politics, and we're moving away from the political aspect.
Yes,
a little bit, and that there's no really place for him in the story anymore. The White Walker battle, where's Littlefinger fit into that? He's
just twirling his thumbs in Winterfell, trying to take it over.
Yeah, so it makes sense to me that Littlefinger's story would come to an end at the end of this season.
And I firmly believe that at the end of the season, Arya and Sansa are going to completely, totally, be on non-speaking terms, and Arya's going to split up and head back to kill Cersei. But that's just me. Because I was never for her going to Winterfell in the first place, but then I found out I was wrong. So, but it does make kind of sense that we get the Stark reunion. We do need to see Arya and Sansa interact, but I think for the end game, I think Arya needs to be elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not what I see, but yeah, you're really obsessed on Arya going after Cersei, but Cersei eventually could end up going up north.
Because it makes sense to me. Oh, that's true.
They could still meet. I think they still, but I don't know.
I want to see Arya's real motives, because she loves Jon so much, and I feel like that's the one character she can really like connect
Well,
with.
that's why I want to see them meet. Like, even because John goes up north to the Whites, I'm wondering if he stops by Winterfell and sees Arya. I made that prediction because that was just wishful thinking, but I didn't actually hear anything because it seems like the two of them need to meet even towards the end.
I really got the impression. I don't think this was made very clear, but it really, really seems to me that he's going from Dragonstone to Eastwatch by the Sea. He's not going to Winterfell. I mean, that could be wrong, but that's really the impression that I got.
But I reckon he could use Littlefinger's magic teleporter to get to Winterfell.
Yeah, I don't think he is, though. I think he's heading straight for Eastwatch. But
well, see, that's the part of the plot links I didn't buy, that we'd actually see Eastwatch, because the show has been so, it always acts like Eastwatch doesn't even exist. But I don't know, maybe they changed that.
They have mentioned it before. I mean,
yeah, they have. But then, like, when when they were coming back from Hardhome, there should have came through Eastwatch, but instead it came north of the wall, which makes no sense. But whatever, right. We could possibly get.
But I believe the show did say that that's where. I believe the show did say that Stannis was headed up there when he was heading north. But maybe I'm thinking of the books. But I thought they did mention it, for that's where Stannis went to.
But really quick, just about Arya and Jon kind of meeting. I think they could do a really good job doing that in the next season, because like right now, Jon would go north of the wall, come back, they go to King's Landing and have the dragon pit scene. And then, according to the plot leak, it says that he's on a boat having sex with Daenerys, like heading north or something. So I think it's safe to say, based on the dragon pit scene, that Jon isn't going to be in Winterfell by the end of this season. And if the wall does come down or if something happens with the White Walkers, it would be interesting dynamic if Jon is in a rush to get home to protect Winterfell and like Arya and Sansa and all them, because they're in danger in a sense. So it could be cool to like have that kind of cliffhanger for the next season.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I personally don't think Arya will be in Winterfell next season, but that's just my prediction. I could be totally wrong, just like I was totally wrong about her getting in Winterfell in season 7. But that's just where I'm leading. All right, cool. So yeah, let's move on to our final big topic. Let's talk about Cersei and Jaime, which we touched on slightly, but I want to get more into Cersei. Particularly, I want to start with her alliance with Euron Greyjoy. And that's another sort of moment where a lot of people, similar to what you were saying, Afkin, about Randall Tarly, is a lot of people are, oh, these are two evil characters. Of course, the evil characters have to team up and be evil together. But it kind of makes sense. I mean, again, getting back to Cersei needs allies things, but it also makes sense in the practical terms that since his plan was to make an alliance with Daenerys and Theon and Yara beat him to it, so it seems to make sense that he would flip to the other side.
Well, I don't understand what those people are saying, that what they think Euron would do in that case. Of course, I mean, what else would he do? Like, he was trying to get Daenerys. He lost out on that boat. I mean, so he's going to go against Daenerys. I mean, that makes total sense to me.
Let's go murder them.
That irritated me so much. But no, it just makes me think, like, was this? Yeah, it just makes me think, like, was this always their plan? Because remember when Dario said, like, "Oh, I got you all these ships. It may just be enough to take us to Westeros," and then they ended up burning them in season 6, and then they introduced the Greyjoys again.
Well, that to me said that they originally weren't planning to have the Greyjoys.
So that's what begs the question, because I think they've done a pretty good job reintroducing them, and I think the alliance between Euron and Cersei makes a lot of sense, show wise, because who else is she going to ally with? And I think it's necessary, and they do a lot of shit this season, according to the plot leaks.
Some people are still holding out for Dragonbinder, or the Horn of Dragons. I don't know. Have you heard of that, Max? Because I know you haven't read the books.
Yeah, no, there's nothing on that, and I never thought there would be anyway, because you can't just introduce something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's no way that's going to happen.
It doesn't work.
But you know what? I mean, there does need to be some way to foil the dragons, and it could just be Qyburn building that machine. That could be their plan. But in that sense, the white dragon thing, even though I still think it's fan servicey, there's got to be some way to neutralize the dragons, and I don't think Dragonbinder is very likely at this stage. I think it's if they were going to introduce it, they should have introduced it at the King's Moot, which is where it was introduced in the books. So since they didn't, I don't think that there is going to be a dragon bite.
Yeah, they haven't introduced any horns. And like you
Bulba
keep saying,
found the horn. I get that every time so now I have to be specific. Yes, Sam found a horn in season 2, but they never said that was the Horn of Winter, and we've never heard about it again. And it may be that they were originally thinking that they would use that as the Horn of Winter, but then they decided to go a different direction because it has not been mentioned since season 2. So I get sick of people going, "Oh no, the Horn of Winter was in the show because Sam found it in season 2." No, he didn't. He found a horn. And
I think the whole horn thing is maybe a bit too magical for this show, because sometimes the show keeps it a bit more low key, like Lady Stoneheart and stuff like that. So I think, definitely at this late stage, there's no way there's going to be a horn. But as far as like a dragon, I predicted that the whole dragon and white thing is not going to happen. That's bullshit. And Cersei's going to kill a dragon. And people are like, well, how is Cersei going to kill a dragon? Well, I was just talking about Kyber and the secret dragon whip, and maybe that actually works when they attack King's Landing. And she attacks King's Landing with dragons, and they bring down the dragon. I
used to have this fantasy. It was going to be my season 7 prediction before the plot leak came out and ruined it. But the mountain would fight one of the dragons, hanging onto its neck.
That would be awesome.
On his neck, touching it, and the mountain would kill one of the dragons, and the mountain would get killed. But it doesn't look like that's happening.
No, for me, it's 100% dragon on dragon.
Yeah, to me, that was that would be like a million times better than Clegane Bowl for me. Like Clegane versus Dragon Bowl, or whatever you want to call it.
I wonder if have the Clegane Bowl people been stirring up again, since it's been confirmed that the Mountain and the Hound are going to be together at that big meeting.
I'm sure they are, but I mean, I think it's been pretty much confirmed that they're not. They're just going to be in the same place at the same time. They're not going to fight. So,
but I think.
Well, before we get, sorry, don't want to get too much off topic. I want to get back to Euron a bit.
I was just going to say, the thing about Euron, he's not going to be, no dragon horn. He won't be able to fight the dragons, but he's going to be the guy behind the scenes, really taking assets away from Daenerys. We know, based on the plot leak, there's the ship event, and it's confirmed that Euron gets Yara Greyjoy, Ilaria, that's how you pronounce it, Ilaria Sand, and her daughter. Tyene Sand. And he captures all three. There's pictures of them on the set of King's Landing, and he's dragging them through the streets.
And it's presumed that Obara and Nymeria Sand are killed, but we don't know that for certain.
Well, that's what makes the plot leak so legit, is that it's said that they are killed, and then we see in set leaks that, the other two Sand Snakes are captured, or, Ilaria and the other Sand Snake is captured, and the other two. So you just got to infer, right?
I want to interject something real quick from the chat, and then we'll get back to that. But I just want to say, I saw Marilyn say, "Am I the only one who doesn't really care about Clegane Bowl?" No, you are not. I do not give a flying shit about Clegane Bowl. I'm so sick of Clegane Bowl. Anyway,
I agree.
Jerome wants to get
something in the chat. But back to the Sand Snakes being killed, and that's all confirmed. That the Ilaria Sand. Now, we don't know what happens to Ilaria, Yara, and Tyene after that. I think they all get killed eventually, too. But we don't know that for certain.
Yeah. I think Yara most definitely is going to die, because I think it's going to help Theon's storyline to have to step up and take over the Ironborn and defeat Euron.
Yeah, which is what
I did not expect him to get that.
Yeah, which is kind of what I was predicting. So that would make sense. Yara would have to die for that to happen.
But I sort of went off the rails and went against the grain and predicted that Tyene Sand would survive, because I think they need to have somebody be in charge of Dorne. I mean, Dorne still needs to be a thing.
I know. I know. They killed everybody off in Dorne. So maybe they'll just kind of sweep Dorne under the rug and go, Dorne doesn't exist anymore.
But my reasoning was that Tyene was the one Sand Snake that people were kind of okay with, because she showed her boobs. So she was the one who was going to survive.
And Cardinal Doomsday says, who cares about the Sand Snakes? Well, I care about Dorne. Dorne was really good in the books, and they totally fucked it up in the show, but they need to they need to have somebody in charge of Doran at the end. And it probably, knowing the show, it usually is a character we know. So it would make sense that one of the Sand Snakes has to survive to fulfill that role, unless they're going to suddenly introduce a new character, but that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you never know with that. Yeah, I thought I had something else to say about Euron, but I was kind of blanking on it. But I don't know, like the kind of relationship he has with Cersei, because I'm thinking like it's going to be like, it's not going to be like, I don't know. I don't think they'll be out to betray each other. I think they'll honestly like want to work together. Like I think Euron's going to have a similar deal with Cersei that Theon has with Daenerys, that is saying, "Oh, okay, I'll let you keep the Iron Islands, and maybe even throw in the Riverlands because she fucking hates the Riverlands and sick of dealing with them." And that way, if you help me defeat Daenerys, and that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but Euron wanted the whole shebang. Like he, in the books and the show, he wants the Iron Throne. So I don't see how there's any way he's not going to be planning to betray Cersei. And
Well,
Cersei,
I don't know if they ever said that specifically in the show, because in the show he's talking about like marrying Daenerys.
right? So he could have the Iron Throne. Like he wanted.
Maybe he want to marry Cersei.
Yeah.
And then Theon made the argument that once he was with Daenerys, he would kill her and take the throne. He made that argument when he was with her.
Yeah, which would be his plan with Cersei too. Like I think he still has his eyes set on that throne. So I think there's no way that Euron is not planning to betray Cersei. And Cersei does not trust anybody. I think Cersei will also be plotting to betray him. But at the very least, Euron will definitely be plotting to betray her because he wants the Iron Throne, and which she has.
Well, I think at the very least they'll be temporary, like allies. Like they're gonna wait.
Oh yeah.
He may just take what he can.
Yeah, they will definitely work together. They will definitely
to be like Phil and make a Deep Space Nine analogy. They'll be like Wayne and Gul Dukat, how they work together to defeat the Federation, but they had plans to betray each other after Zephyr. Sorry for speaking Greek to you, Max. But
yeah, and that's kind of what I had in mind too. Yeah, that's what I was thinking would happen.
But I wanted to mention something about the plot leaks that another thing I totally disagree with, and I think is not going to happen. Is it says, I read somewhere, maybe this is an incorrect plot leak, but I read somewhere that Euron is going, after hearing about the White Walkers, he's going to just he's going to ask if they can swim, and when they say no, they're going to all just go back to the Iron Islands and hide. That doesn't sound like Euron to me. That sounds dumb.
That's new to me. I don't know.
Yeah, and I've never read that anywhere. I just heard I heard you say
fan fiction, Mark.
Yeah, and that actually contradicts what I read about that there's going to be a confrontation between Euron and Theon at the end. So
that's what I thought.
Yeah. So I think that thing you're referring to is bullshit, and I don't. I don't think that's a part of the big plot leak because I didn't see it in there. I never heard of that except for with you.
Yeah, well, the plot leaks is difficult because they're scattered throughout the internet, and I read them in different places, and maybe some of the places is bullshit. So that could have been the case.
I think we'll leave Euron just beside Cersei, and like the whole thing about him taking over. He's in a position where he's in the middle of a war between two sides, and one side doesn't want him, so he kind of has to go with Cersei. So I think he's just gonna be her, like do what she says, and then who knows if he'll betray her later or not, but I don't think we'll see that in this season.
Well, I think he'll die by the end. I think Theon's going to kill him or have him find some way to kill him. It's hard to imagine Theon beating him in hand-to-hand combat, but I think there's some way where he's going to die by the end of the season. But
yeah, and I agree. I think there's well, that's what I predicted. But yeah, I agree that I think you're around this. I don't see him at the end game either, and I think Theon is the important character from the Iron Islands. He has been from the beginning, so I think he's got it. By the end of the season, he's got to emerge as the lead guy in the Iron Islands, and Euron will be gone. That's what I see.
Cool. All right, so let's move on. I think the next hold on. The next topic I want to talk about, we already touched on, I think, is Castle Rock. So maybe we don't need it. We already talked about Castle Rock a bit. So let's just get into the final big thing, the whole negotiating meeting at the Dragon Vic. Do you have the list of characters, Max? There's like 18
I do.
or something characters.
Yeah. By the way, this changed my whole perception of the end. Like we were just talking about, you think like Euron's going to die or whatever because you don't see that as like an end game. This leak changed my whole perception of what the end game is. Because with Cersei being alive and all this going on, like I don't even know what to expect for the ending anymore.
Well, just to be clear, I think Euron's going to die after this meeting because I know he's confirmed for this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I'll just look up that list, guys. Hang on.
Because in fact, like I think I heard somewhere there is going to be like a one-on-one Ironborn fight at the meeting, so it could actually happen like at the meeting. Like I think that might be part of the deal because if Cersei and Daenerys come to some sort of truce, like they each have their own side of Ironborn, so they need to sort of work out who actually is going to rule the Iron Islands.
And that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it could just happen right at the meeting there. All right, you looking up the list?
I'm looking it up. Hang on, I'm trying.
Right, while he's doing that, I'm going to run off for a second. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's see what's going on in the chat. Not quite sure what they're talking about in the chat. Oh, talking about Pedro Pascal playing Oberyn. Yeah, it's so weird because Oberyn is like, actually, I think this is why Dorne was such a disaster because I don't think they had originally planned to do the Dorne storyline in season 5. I think they were just going to skip it out. But Pedro Pascal as Oberyn was such a hit and people loved him. It's like, well, we have to do Dorne now. And so they kind of just half-assed it and just came up with something at the last minute. And that's why it sucked because they weren't prepared for it. And because it totally sucked in season 5, they just, we'll just kill them all off in season 6, which pissed me off because I think after season 5, the Dorne storyline could have been salvaged. Like if they focused more on Doran and Hota and killed off the Sand Snakes instead of doing the exact opposite, then they could have salvaged the Dorne storyline. But yeah, that's just my thinking of it.
Okay, so here's the thing. I can't find the list right now. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. It's literally everybody except for the people in Winterfell. You're not going to see Arya. You're not going to see Sansa.
But Brienne and Podrick are there.
Brienne and Pod are there.
Yeah, and is Davos is there?
Davos is there.
Yeah.
Okay. And Varys and is Grey Worm?
Varys.
No, Grey Worm's not there, is he? No.
Grey Worm was not there. Grey Worm was not there.
But the rest of Daenerys is fine. Like Missandei is there, I believe.
I don't know about Missandei.
No, Missandei. It didn't say Missandei.
Oh, it didn't. Oh, right.
It didn't say Missandei. No. But it's pretty much every like main character. You got even the both Cleganes are there. Yeah, like everybody. Theon, Euron, Cersei, Qyburn, Bronn, Jaime, Tyrion, Daenerys, Jon. Everyone.
Well, Gendry is not there, which is why.
No, Gendry, yeah.
His death. But I know Mark, you predicted he's going to survive. But I predicted his death. That's why he's not there. But not necessarily.
He could just be hanging up north. But yeah,
it's true. It's true. He doesn't have
it could go either way. Like, yeah, maybe he dies, maybe he doesn't.
I never even thought about Gendry dying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he does.
I'm just glad, Akton, that your prediction of him dying immediately, like OSHA didn't come true. That would have pissed me off.
Yeah. And that was a cynical prediction. This is what the show does. They bring people back and just kill them instantly. So but I'm glad too that they're not doing that.
Well, that's like my prediction. As soon as Arya meets Nymeria and the wolf pack, like an army is going to come through and chop off all the wolf, kill all the dire wolves.
Yeah,
fucking
that would be consistent.
But yeah, so yeah, there's gonna be a shit ton of so this would be like the scene with like the most main characters in like one place and a lot who've never met before. So yeah, I think it's gonna be quite epic. Now, do we think this is going to be the final scene of the season or just in the final episode?
I don't know. I think you actually made me rethink something by suggesting that the Euron and Theon thing could happen in that dragon pit scene. But because I was thinking, well, that definitely has to happen after that. So also, I think I do think we're gonna get a little bit of epilogue with what Cersei's real plan is, and Cersei and Jaime are gonna have a confrontation. So I don't think it's gonna be the very, very last scene. It may be towards the end, and then we just kind of see a little bit after it. Possibly, or it could be in the beginning, and there's a lot that happens after it. I actually don't know. I can see it going in any way.
Yeah, I always pictured that there'd be more stuff after it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like in the middle of the episode. It's going to be like a significant chunk because I think it's going to be like when I say it's not fan servicey, but it's really going to intertwine all these characters. I think there's going to be a scene between Tyrion and Cersei. Like there's going to be scenes like that are just kind of, just character building, and then they'll have the meeting with the White and the whole dragon glass thing. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, like the plot leaks talked about like that Cersei actually surrenders King's Landing or whatever as part of the truce, but she doesn't she actually has a secret plan for them to the White Walkers to kill them off, and then Jaime rides north to join them because he's not okay with this. So
what I heard is that they didn't actually take King's Landing, which is interesting because like the way Jon convinced Daenerys that it's like the primary issue is the White Walkers, so they kind of went, hey, like we have a conversation and talk about this issue. And what I thought the plot leak said, or what the plot leak said I have at least, they say that they come at her and Cersei says she pretty much provides them her services. I'll give you my men, but they don't take over King's Landing, and then Jon and Daenerys leave. But then Cersei says oh, I'm going to betray them. I'm just going to let the White Walkers take them out. And then
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I'd always just assumed that Cersei had to give up King's Landing as part of the deal because it didn't seem like Daenerys would accept any deal where she didn't get King's Landing.
Well, I know, but that's what I've been struggling with because then it's like that. I don't think that would work out because, and the politics I have didn't say that, because if Daenerys would get King's Landing, Cersei would fight back, but they need Cersei's men. Because that's Jon's whole perspective is we're wasting our men on this war. We should be focusing north.
Yeah, well, I thought I was thinking along the lines of Mark, and I was thinking that the war is over. Like Cersei, your choice, your choice is to die or to give up King's Landing. I don't think there is no fighting back. She's done. She's toast. So part of the deal would be, well, this is something that I made up. This wasn't in the plot leak, but that she and Jaime would be allowed to go back, be wardens of the West, and be able to be brother and sister married and all that stuff. And or I think it's going to be something like that. So I did not read in the plot leak that she wouldn't have King's Landing. And actually, I asked you guys this earlier if you had read anything about whether or not King's Landing would fall, because I was very fuzzy on this.
Yeah.
But my impression was that it would be kind of all but over, and so that she would have to give it up. But I could just be making that up. So, you might be right.
Yeah, because I didn't read this specifically, but I got the impression from stuff I read and stuff I saw that and this is what I said in my video, is that at the first 4 episodes, the war will be going very bad for Daenerys, and Euron will, kill the Sand Snakes, and Cersei will be making all his plans. But in the big ambush, the Battle of Highgarden is going to be the turning point of the war, and from then on, Daenerys is just going to get all these allies, and definitely like the Riverlands with Edmure, and they're just going to kick ass and totally defeat. So do you know that they're going to put Castle Rock under siege? So if they're doing that, Daenerys is doing very well. So it was my impression that she was just going to totally kick ass and surround Cersei at King's Landing, where she had to give up King's Landing in order to not die.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I just know that they need the Lannister men, and I don't know if this is right, but the plot leak says that she says she's just going to let the White Walkers pick everyone off, and that makes Jaime angry, so he actually heads north.
Yeah, that's the part I
heard. Yeah,
that part I did see. that
So-
she was.
yeah.
But my impression of it was that, we can either just kill you all, or you can be free to go, and your men will help us against the White Walkers. And
Yeah.
then Cersei's like, betrays them, and what you just said, that she just wants them all to get killed by the White
Well, that's
Walkers.
why that makes sense to me, because that's why Cersei agrees to the truce in the first place. Because I don't think Cersei would ever agree to this truce unless she was at the disadvantage and it was her only option, which is why I think that's going to be the case. And the reason why she agrees to the truce is so she knows she can't defeat Daenerys outright, but if she lets the White Walkers take care of her for her, then that's her big plan. And so that's why she agrees to the truce. But her secret plan is to let the White Walkers kill them all. And she'll actually sort of work against them. And that's what pisses Jaime off. And that's why Jaime runs off.
But now this throws everything out of loop for me. Because, I thought King's Landing would be done by season 7. So it's weird to me that, this whole thing is going to be going on north and Cersei's just going to be sitting in King's Landing. I feel like they should have cut her story. That's the one issue with these plot leaks, and it's weird. But just that Cersei's still around is weird to me. I just don't see how that.
Well, I assumed that's like Akton was saying, that Cersei and Jaime would go back to Castle Rock, and that she would somehow some battle or whatever, or maybe Cersei would sabotage. I know, Akton, you had some predictions of wildfire sabotage, that King's Landing would just be destroyed by the end of season 7. Which I haven't read that in any plot links, but that makes the most sense to me, that King's Landing is just a non-factor going into season 8.
Yeah, and I actually had always pictured Cersei as part of the end game. Originally, when I first did a How Game of Thrones Will End video, I was kind of thinking more of Cersei as book Cersei, because the season 5 hadn't come on yet, but where she's really obsessed with getting revenge on Tyrion, and she's not as much in the show. She kind of hasn't even really mentioned Tyrion in a while, but in the book she's very focused on getting Tyrion. So I was thinking she would be around for the end game, but she would be obsessed with getting Tyrion and kind of getting in the way. But now that looks like that's not the direction they're heading. I do think you need a foil for kind of the people who are trying to fight against the White Walkers. I think it would be, well, I hate to use the phrase because I get sick of people using this, but kind of on Game of Thrones, for everybody who's alive to be going united against the White Walkers. So I always expected Cersei to be around in season 8 to be that foil, kind of to kind of throw a monkey wrench in it, so that's not everybody who's still alive is all united against the White Walkers like that. That would be very on Game of Thrones like. So it makes sense to me that Cersei's going to still be around in season 8 to kind of be that foil.
Yeah, I actually like that. I never thought about it like that. She's taking advantage of it behind the scenes and kind of screwing everyone over. Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and at first, when I made my initial predictions, I also said I didn't see any place for Cersei in the end game. But now that I do see that, what you just laid out, Akton, is that she's going to be a foil, sort of, where everyone else will be fighting for against the White Walkers. She'll want them to lose so she can take over the kingdoms. That makes perfect sense. But of course, I had my own predictions for Cersei, which I said in my Arya video. But I seriously doubt that will happen. But we won't get into that. But I just wanted to address. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I want to make sure we address the White. I would like to talk about the White that they bring.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you want to. If you're planning on bringing that up, or if
just real quick, I just want to address something in the chat before I forget. Big E says Jaime and Tyrion. Jaime said to Bronn in season 5, the next time he sees Tyrion, he will kill him, which is interesting. But I had a sort of theory about that, and part of the plot leak is that Lady Olenna tells Jaime before she poisons herself, kills herself, that she was responsible for killing Joffrey. So I think maybe that knowledge will sort of lessen Jaime's hate for Tyrion when he learns for a fact that Tyrion was framed.
Yeah, I saw that he was only mad at Tyrion for killing Tywin. Because I feel like that's when he really started to get angry with him.
Well, yeah, but because he killed Tywin, he then assumed that meant that Tyrion was guilty for killing Joffrey.
Oh, really?
Along.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and the fact that he knows that he was framed from the beginning, he sort of makes him more on Tyrion's side against Tywin, because he knows that Tywin knew that. Well, Tywin didn't know, but he knows that Tyrion was innocent and Tywin was going against him anyway.
Yeah, and that part of the story that part of the story that we're talking about with Jaime and Tyrion, I thought that would be addressed in like episode 5 when there's the whole High Garden fight scene. Like you guys said that Jaime and Bronn would escape, but I thought it would be interesting if Tyrion had an interaction with Jaime and Jaime's like, you're fighting on the wrong side. Like they had like that kind of that interaction where Jaime's furious with Tyrion because he's fighting for Daenerys, fighting against his own family.
Oh yeah,
and he's like,
that would be cool.
And he's like, yeah, and he'd be like, yelling at Tyrion like, you almost killed me. Like Bronn had to save me. Like, and there was like this bad blood between them. And then they had to send him back to King's Landing in good faith.
I have a feeling that they might settle things in the dragon pit scene. That maybe they'll have that interaction at the battle, but then later they'll like settle things up at the that could be interesting. But let's talk about the white, Afghan. So
I was always fuzzy on this. Like they're bringing a white down, so it seems to me the only way that they could convince people like Cersei is the white needs to be still active. Like if they otherwise, it's just it's a dead body. Like I mean. It needs to still be like moving around and like going after people. Like
I watched this video that were quoting the plot leak, so I hadn't seen it myself. But they were saying it was in the plot leaks that the white is in fact like still active in the like chains or whatever, and that they cut it up into little pieces and it's still moving. Is that what you heard, Matt?
They said that the Cleganes did it. Like the Mountain tried and the Hound tried, and he was still moving around. And then John's like, only fire, and then like that happened.
So wait, but how do they transport it down all the way up from the north? So it's in chains, or is that what you said, Mark?
That's just my assumption.
How do they get it all the way to King's Landing? This is what
I know. Like they're running away from the
Littlefinger's
thing, and John has it in a headlock, like running like north. Like how are they going to capture it? I didn't even think about that. Like all this shit's going down. John's like dying. Daenerys is saving everybody, and John's like holding this white, like running. Like I don't know how they're gonna actually capture one. Oh shit!
I mean, I guess it would have to be like in chains, but can you chain a white without it? I mean, getting out. I guess if you chain it, it could just.
But now I'm thinking about the polar. They're gonna have polar bears and a white dragon, and then you're gonna have somebody dragging along this white. I think it'll look kind of weird.
Is the white going to be there when John and Daenerys are having sex on the boat? Is he going to be watching?
He's going to be standing there,
I don't know.
It's the teleporter, I tell you. No, but they're talking in the chat about how they don't like Doomsday, saying he never liked the whole white thing, and I didn't either until I thought this is total bullshit, and then it was confirmed by production. Like this is the one thing that has been confirmed, so we have to deal with this. That this is a fact of life. Now, in my prediction video, I was saying that I thought the mission up north would specifically be to capture white so they can present it as proof, but other people were saying maybe that's not the case. Maybe they go up north for a different reason, and they just happen to bring back a white as proof.
I thought the plot leak said that specifically they do go up there for that purpose. That's what I remember reading when I first read the plot leak, that was their purpose for going up there was to capture a white.
Okay, I mean that seems to make the most sense to me.
And but at the time I was like, why would the fuck would they even think of that? Like, why would they say, let's go capture a white and bring it down? But that's what I had always read, that's very specifically, that is their purpose for going there in the first place. Not that they just happen to get one and bring it back.
Yeah, that's what I read. It's like their only purpose. And like, to me, I like with the plot leaks, I just I never thought they would go north, because that's where the danger is. I just assumed that they would stay south. But since they're going north, that's the only reason I can really think of that would really make the most sense.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about, I think we can sort of wrap things up here.
Well, there's been something going on in the chat. I don't know, Mark, if you just wanted to not talk about it because
I haven't really noticed it.
Yeah, there's been Shane Morris keeps bringing it up, and people are talking about it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I just saw it now. Yeah, go ahead.
I could do. I mean, honestly, I could do without talking about it. I don't really fucking care. I'm so sick of this.
Well, actually, I do want to talk about it a little bit. You're talking about
but since I was going to say, since people have been talking about it in the chat, we should bring it up.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
And what they're talking about, for those who are watching this in the archives later and can't see the chat, is that they're talking about John being named Aegon and how ridiculous that is.
See, I agree that it's ridiculous, but someone in one of my videos commented they thought that was more ridiculous or more of an offense than the white dragon. I could not possibly disagree more with that.
Yeah,
the Aegon thing bothers me, but the thing with the dragon white, that bothers me a hell of a lot more because that's a lot more of a big thing to me. Like that would affect the show a lot more. Whereas Jon being called Aegon is just, and unless it leads into a storyline of Jon becoming king of the Seven Kingdoms, it doesn't affect the show as much to me, and so it's just a minor annoyance. Whereas the dragon white thing is like a huge, like gaping piece of shit. But that's just my opinion.
I actually disagree with you on that, Mark, because I think that at least the dragon white, even though it's too fan servicey and stupid, it does, as we were talking through it, it makes a certain bit of sense.
Yeah.
Whereas
you guys agreed that I don't think it does.
Yeah.
I think it could be.
Whereas Rhaegar naming two sons Aegon makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. Zero sense. I think that is the absolute worst thing in the plot leak, and so I actually disagree with you on that. I think it is worse than the White Dragon, although they're both bad. So it's like
I just think it doesn't.
Splitting hairs.
I just think it doesn't affect the show that much. I mean, how bad would that affect the entire show? I mean, it's just that in itself is dumb, but it doesn't really have
the whole
a huge
idea though of not just it's beyond to me just Jon being named Aegon, but I'm still bugged by this thing where Rhaegar and Lyanna are married, so that Jon is legitimate. And actually what somebody told me on one of the comments, I guess they had insight from the free folk on Reddit, and this came from the plot leak, that it's not that there's polygamy involved, that it's actually that Rhaegar apparently got his marriage with what's her face, Dorne, annulled, and so it's not polygamy. And then he married Lyanna. And I don't know how legitimate that is, but the reason why, regardless of whether it's polygamy or not, the reason why I hate all of this is because it seems to be setting up for Jon being able to get the Iron Throne, which I hate.
I feel like that's the only reason that they would do that.
That part of it bothers me, but so if that builds into that, then okay.
It just seems like that's the only reason that they would do that, is to give Jon a claim to the Iron Throne.
Here's the thing, though.
That's why I like it.
Is any of Rhaegar's kids in the show mentioned to be named Aegon?
Oh, in the show, I think so.
They have. I'm pretty sure that they have mentioned the Mountain killing Aegon, and well, they definitely have mentioned, like Oberyn talked about it a lot. It's possible that they didn't specifically call that baby Aegon.
Yeah, because if they didn't mention it, they can do it. But I personally don't think Jon shouldn't even be. I feel like Jon is the kind of character who shouldn't even know that he's a Targaryen.
Well, I think he should know he's a Targaryen, but
I feel like he's the character that he's just born to be the savior kind of a guy, and that's what he does. Mm-hmm. Like he's not meant to be like the king. He doesn't need to be legitimate. He is who he is. That's the way I see his character.
All right. I don't know. There's something I really wanted to bring up, but I lost my train of thought. Yeah. But yeah, I think this whole thing about Jon. Oh, what I was going to say was actually, you mentioned before, Akton, the sort of marriage or whatever. I've actually been hearing rumors about that for years. Like there was always speculation, like it was never proven, but there was always a speculation that Lyanna and Rhaegar got married in the Isle Faces. So when I heard that doesn't sound too far fetched to me, and they got the marriage annulled. Like I would be okay with all of that, but the whole thing about him, them naming him Aegon, it does seem rather, if it's just a plot point that means nothing, then I'd be perfectly okay with it.
Well, I'll put it this way.
If it feeds into Jon becoming king, then I wouldn't be okay with it.
Well, that's what it bothers me, because I can't think of what other possible purpose there would be for having that as part of the plot, other than to set it up so Jon could be king. And so that's what bothers me. So, but if in the end, like, he doesn't end up, as long as he doesn't end up on Iron Throne, I'm good. But But that's what bugs me, is that it seems like that's the only reason that they would do that, is to set up for that, and that's what I don't like it.
Yeah, see, like Jon and Daenerys getting married, or them riding dragons and fighting the White Walkers, I'm okay with all of that. That's not too fan servicey. That's fine. But if the show ends with either one of them or both ruling, the Iron Throne and being the, heroic ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, that I have a problem with.
Especially if it's both of them being married. And, that I will go on record and say that would be worse than the ending of Lost. I would be like, Game of Thrones.
Holy shit!
Worst ending of all time. If it's Jon and Daenerys are married and they're in love and they have children together and they're ruling the Seven Kingdoms, worst ending of all time. But I don't think that that's going to happen.
I don't think I could go as far as I can say it'd be worse than Lost. Nothing's worse than Lost.
There were things in Lost that I liked. There were some aspects.
But the ending with the church and that was dumb. Nothing's worse than that.
I haven't seen Lost, but wouldn't an ending like Lost for Game of Thrones be like they discover that they're like actually hosts and they're like a part of Westworld? And that's like the whole thing. Like, it wasn't Lost like a different reality or something?
No.
A lot of people get confused about. No,
let's not get too much into Lost.
You don't want to spoil it? Okay, I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah, let's not get too much into Lost.
Right.
I'm just saying, Daenerys and Jon being happy together, living happily ever after, and being the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms would be the worst ending I could possibly have.
Shane Morris in the chat brings up a really good point. He says the ending came from George, and that's sort of Dan and David been on record that they're going to meet at the end. And like the ending they got from George, and they're sort of making up their own shit to get to the ending. But once they're there, they're going to stay true to his ending. So in that case, I don't think George would ever do an ending like that. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Fact, George R. Martin is on record as saying that he is going to specifically avoid having an ending as bad as Lost. He has said that specifically.
Oh, yes, he has, actually. Yeah. I know that Damon Lindelof was pissed off at him, but I totally agree.
Yeah, Damon Lindelof needs to get over himself. But
absolutely. Getting off topic again. Cool. Well, yeah, I think we sort of talked about everything. Unless there's any sort of last thoughts, do you guys want to talk about before we head off?
I think we hit on everything.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm feeling good about this.
Cool. Well, yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys in the chat. All the regulars, good to see you, and new people joining. Marilyn Bentley, Shane Morris, Carl Deemsday, Big E. See you comment on the videos. Good for you. Thanks for joining. And anyone watching in the archives, thanks for sticking through to the end. And thank you guys, Max and Akton, for joining. Really great to have this. It's been dying to talk about season 7 spoilers for a while. So it's finally great to hash this out. Great discussion. So if you just want to give a big plug of where people can find you and what's going on with your channels, we can start with you, Max.
Yeah, well, Mark, thank you so much for having me, Akton. Like, I love talking Game of Thrones with both you guys. And thank you to everybody in the chat for being a part of the conversation. You can find me at Buxxtox, Buzztox, and I think I'm going to have a video up tomorrow, and I'm going to break through the plot leaks episode by episode. So you can look forward to that.
Cool. We'll check that out. So a lot of you who are fans of Mark's channel probably know me. I know everybody in the chat also knows me, but I'm Akton Tamko. I just did a spoiler-free Game of Thrones video because, I did have a couple people were like, can't you do something that's like spoiler-free? So I did do one, and I hope to come up with some more Game of Thrones material soon. I'm thinking up of things that I could do for Game of Thrones. I also have I'm about to finish off my Star Trek reviews. I'm almost finished with my season 7 review, and it'll be posted shortly. And then I'm going to start getting into top 10s and top 25s of Star Trek. And then down the road, it's still my goal to do some rewatches of the early seasons of Game of Thrones sometime before July, and then I'll do like rewatch reviews of those seasons. So I got all kinds of stuff planned for my channel. So check it out, subscribe if you have not already, and yeah, thank you guys for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and you know where to find me, Enchantment of Eternity, and make sure to subscribe if you're not. And at the moment, like, I don't have much Game of Thrones stuff planned for the immediate future because I'm a bit busy covering other shows. The Expanse and Black Sails are finishing off, and then coming soon, Better Call Saul and The Leftovers are starting, and those are two shows I plan to cover every week because those are two of my favorite shows. So it's going to have me occupied. But I am going to try to squeeze in some Game of Thrones videos here and there, maybe once a month, maybe more if I can. But when we get closer to July, trust me, the Game of Thrones videos will be coming out in force. But yeah, hopefully I've got a few sort of more Game of Thrones collaborations in the works, so maybe keep an eye out for that. And yeah, make sure you subscribe, make sure to check us all out. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you later.